Today on Notsam Wrestling, now that we've got the qualifiers that we've got, how do these Elimination Chamber matches look? What is the women's division like heading to WrestleMania? Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn have an epic confrontation on SmackDown. What else could be in the crate and so much more? This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. It's been a very, very busy week. It's been a great week. If you go to the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel, you can see that there is already content that is dropping. 2K26, WWE 2K26 Creator Fest went down last week at WWE headquarters. I posted some photos and video and stuff on the Notsam and Notsam Wrestling Instagram accounts. I'm also going to have interviews and segments. I did the Sirius show live from there. The Blake Monroe interview that we did is already up on the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel. Wade Barrett going up, another segment with my assistant Danielle, getting her familiar with this world of professional wrestling. With WWE Now, the WWE podcast feed, we got, amazing interviews coming with Drew McIntyre, with Jacob Fatu, with CM Punk, with Penta, all kinds of stuff coming down the pike. So you'll see it as it all comes out, but it's very, very exciting. But this is a very, very exciting time, not just because we're getting ready for the launch of WWE 2K26, but because this weekend is Elimination Chamber, and that means that, this is it. This is the road to WrestleMania, and we're shaping what this WrestleMania looks like. And shockingly, other than CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, there is nothing all that clear about what is going to happen at WrestleMania. Now, I don't think this is some kind of emergency. WrestleMania is not until the end of April. So there's a lot of storytelling time between now and then. There's 2 full months, basically, from the time that we're talking before WrestleMania. But to have really, you kind of assume you're going to get something with Cody and Drew, whether it's Cody, Drew, Jacob, whether it's Cody, Drew, whether it's something like that. You assume that's what's going to happen. But I wouldn't say it's like looking through a window. I wouldn't say that it's perfectly clear that that's where it's going. That's probably, like I was saying last week, where I would want it to go. Like, I'm the biggest Jacob Fatu fan that you'll ever meet. For the purpose of this story, I kind of feel like Cody versus Drew, there's a story in there with all the story that's been told, with all the matches that have been had. We're still kind of waiting for that one sort of, here is the biggest babyface versus biggest heel match on SmackDown. And if SmackDown wants to come back from that promo that Roman Reigns and CM Punk cut, asserting flat out that Raw is the biggest show that the WWE has to offer, I think that in and of itself is enough for Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre to say, well, hey, we disagree with that. SmackDown is a better show than Raw. I'm the biggest good guy. You're the biggest bad guy. This should be a massive, massive match. And I think, especially with Drew as the champion, especially with Cody chasing, it's a dynamic we haven't seen before with those two, that you can build something special. And we saw it, the opening segment on SmackDown with Drew McIntyre getting the night off, but still showing up all white, head to toe, a little off-white, but, whites, like the hero that he is, showing up to SmackDown, trying to sit in a nice luxury box, popping up a little bit backstage. Look, he's the type of guy, you give him the night off, that's fine. But if he wants to work, he's coming to work. And maybe he's the type of guy that, listen, he's just a wrestling fan. You give him the night off, what's he going to do? He's going to go watch wrestling. And his favorite show is SmackDown. Maybe that's why he was there. They gave him a live mic, talked to the sound guy. But Drew and Cody and Jacob, they all started. Jacob making it clear that his beef was with Drew McIntyre, which again makes me feel like Jacob is not going to be a hindrance to Cody Rhodes winning the Elimination Chamber. That Jacob is instead going to spend, the next however long feuding with Drew McIntyre, leaving the road open to Cody and Drew to have their one-on-one WrestleMania match. Jacob saying, my beef is not with Cody, and Cody seemingly forgiving Jacob. Cody's kind of in the position where from Cody's perspective, Jacob cost him the WWE Championship. Now, you'll hear it when the interview drops, but Drew let me know that he had listened to me covering that very thing on the podcast, and that from Drew's perspective, Jacob did not cost Cody the WWE Championship, that had Jacob not shown up, Drew would have gotten out of the cage door anyway, which is an argument that can 1,000% be made. But from Cody's perspective, Jacob cost him the belt. So for Jacob to say, it's all good with me and you right now, Cody, I'm going after Drew, you would think that Cody would be like, nah, I got problems with you as well. Cody should have a lot more problems than he's got right now, but he may have more problems than he realizes that he's got right now. Because even with the opening segment, even with the 2 qualifiers, even with the fact that we saw Aleister Black get a pinfall victory over Randy Orton, my favorite thing on all of SmackDown, even with the MFTs and the Tama Tonga push that's happening and everything that's going on right now, my favorite thing that happened on SmackDown was the backstage between Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn. Cody Rhodes going up to Sami Zayn, and I mean, it was a 3-minute backstage segment. I don't remember the last time a 3-minute backstage segment was my favorite thing on the show, but this 3-minute backstage segment, I think, said a lot more than you usually would get out of a 3-minute backstage segment. Because Cody Rhodes goes up to Sami Zayn, and Cody, is kind of saying, I hope that you're all good and everything. Just wanted to let you know you got nothing to be ashamed of. You have nothing to be ashamed of after losing the qualifier. Which the last thing that anybody wants in life is for the guy that beat them to come up to them and go, hey, buddy, that was a great fight out there. I would never want that. I don't want to talk to that guy. I'm annoyed that I lost, especially if I lost the way Sami Zayn lost, which was the exact same way that Cody Rhodes lost the WWE Championship, by getting distracted and beating up the other guy who wasn't even there to beat you up. Sami Zayn got distracted, started going after Drew McIntyre. Cody Rhodes took advantage of it. Sami Zayn brought that to light. He said, you're right. I have nothing to be ashamed of, because you're the one that has something to be ashamed of. And he put it right back into Cody's face. And I've got to tell you, when Sami Zayn was explaining that Cody is the one who has something to be ashamed of, not only was it like, a little obnoxious for Cody to always be the bigger man and the mentor guy and going like, hey, just pull those socks back up and you'll get back there. A little obnoxious. But when Sami Zayn pointed out, no, I was the good guy here. You don't have to tell me about being ashamed. If I was the good guy, that means you were the bad guy. And Cody goes, whoa. But it's true. And it almost, starts to feel a little bit like Drew McIntyre's position, where he's not being kind in his delivery, but he is telling the truth, and it's a truth that the audience knows. And Cody and Sami go back and forth, and Sami tells Cody he's the chosen one, he's the golden boy, he's never had to struggle the way Sami Zayn has had to struggle, and Cody brings up the fact that he did indeed lose the title the same way that Sami Zayn lost that qualifier, which then makes me go, hey, if you just learned the lesson a month ago, I don't know if you're qualified to teach it yet. That's how I would react if somebody was trying to teach me something that they just learned. I would be annoyed about it. And Sami was. But they went back and forth, and at the end of it, and they went back and forth with Cody explaining that he has indeed struggled. And that Sami knows that Cody has struggled, but Cody has fought against it. And that is true. I mean, the story was built, and maybe you couldn't have said that if Cody had won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 39. But the fact that he had to wait that year, win it at 40, then he lost it again to Cena, now he's lost it to Drew McIntyre. He has had his back up against the wall, but not like Sami Zayn has. He has not had to fight the way Sami Zayn has, because Sami Zayn has been fighting longer than Cody has, and still, he hasn't won it and lost it. He's never won it at all. And Cody walks off, and Sami slams his water bottle down and really gives off the impression that he's not mad at Cody. He's mad at himself. He's coming across like he's far more mad at himself. That's when Trick Williams shows up and is kind of laughing at him, kind of picking on him. And I think he kind of centers Sami Zayn. He brings him back to reality. Sami Zayn's starting to realize who his real enemies are. And he goes up to Cody Rhodes and he says, hey, man, I want to apologize. And that moment to me was the most interesting moment on all of SmackDown. And that takes nothing away from the rest of SmackDown. I just found that moment incredibly interesting. And I found that moment incredibly interesting, not because Sami Zayn apologized, but because when he apologized, the audience booed. You could hear the audience in the arena listening. And when he said, hey, he went to the good guy and said, I just want to apologize, and the audience booed. I think the audience booing tells the whole story. You know, I think that there are a lot of fans tired of seeing the same people win. I think that there are also fans that want to see struggle, but they want to see the struggle get paid off. You know what I mean? And I think that that's what they want with somebody like Sami Zayn. They want Sami Zayn to step up. Now, look, regardless of the reaction, I don't think that the reaction was based around this narrative that I keep pushing back against, that Cody needs to turn heel. I don't think Cody is a heel. I don't think Cody should turn heel. I think Cody is a fabulous babyface. I think Cody has talked about in the past there being home games and away games. I think that's a great way to phrase it. I think that every great babyface at one point or another has struggled with keeping the crowd on their side, especially over a long period of time. And Cody is now going into 39, 40, like his fourth year of main eventing WrestleManias. And even when he didn't main event 38, he was main eventing Backlash and he was main eventing Hell in a Cell. Like, he was main eventing from WrestleMania 38. We're going into WrestleMania 42. It is natural that there would be a resistance building up, and Cody as a character, it's on him to evolve from that. And I have no doubt that Cody as a character will evolve from that. But I found the booing was more in response to Sami. It had everything to do with Cody, but it had even more to do with Sami Zayn. I think that what people don't want out of Sami Zayn is the humility. It's enough of the humility. I know it's not if, it's when. I know I'm going to win the title. We don't. You better go out there and do it, Sami. And you know, this idea that, like, I've never heard of a champion that the crowd gets behind just trusting the process. No, it'll come when it comes. That's not how Hogan was. That's not how Cody was. It's not how Roman was. That's not how anybody is. It's not how Punk was. You know what I mean? I want it, and I want it now. I'm the guy. I'm going to fight for it. I think that Sami Zayn is the one that is going through an evolution here. And I think that Sami Zayn is somebody that we all know who he is. We all know what he's capable of. We all remember 2023 and the Elimination Chamber, or 2022. No, 2023. Yeah, 2023. We all remember Sami and Roman. We all remember NXT. A lot of us remember Generico. We all know what Sami Zayn is capable of. And I think that Sami Zayn needs to own that level of awareness. I think Sami Zayn is the one that should be turning heel. This should be a final straw for Sami Zayn. He's the one who has to change. It's not if, it's when, but Sami's the one who needs to determine the when. And the when needs to be determined by this character not doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. I think a heel Sami Zayn is not just great because he can openly resent Cody Rhodes. I don't think that a heel Sami Zayn is defined by the opportunities that Cody Rhodes has gotten. I think that just happens to be a spot that he's in right now. I think that you can go back to Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, and I think that Sami, honestly, Sami can be maybe not as cocky, but in philosophy, not a terribly different heel than Drew McIntyre, where Sami can tell the truth and tell the story, and it will justify his actions. Whether it's with the Bloodline, whether it's with Cody Rhodes, whether it's everything that's happened since then, whether it's everybody cheering for the people who Sami was against for so long. I mean, Sami's got that story. But I don't think that Sami should just resent Cody. I think that Sami Zayn should be that voice of experience that is looking at a new generation coming in that are all working on getting their moment before he has had a chance to get his. I don't think when you look at the big picture that if Sami Zayn becomes a villain, and by the way, he might be a villain that gets cheered. He may be a villain that ends up in matches with Cody Rhodes where they boo Cody and they cheer Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn becoming a serious villain, not conspiracy theory, not intercontinental title, not that guy. I mean a heel who's only out for himself. I mean somebody that maybe resembles his best friend Kevin Owens a little bit more. I think that people would buy into it. I think a lot of people would enjoy it. But that would just be a road to go down. There's no reason not to go down that road. There's no reason you can't tell that story in terms that are maybe not so definitive as good guy and bad guy was at one point. But I think that Sami's real problem, the overall problem as a character, should be that he's getting skipped over, that he's waited so long for his opportunity to come that there's a new generation of people coming in. And that's where he becomes a heel. Because fans are going to cheer the new guys. Fans like new, fans like fresh. That's one of the reasons why fans may cheer Sami over Cody, at least some fans, because Sami would be doing something new. Fans like new. But that's why everybody loves Obafemi. Everybody loves Javon Evans. Everybody loves Trick Williams. People are coming around on Carmelo Hayes and loving him. People like Braun Breaker. I mean, these are the people, Dominic Mysterio. These are the people that, as they all ascend, these are the enemies of Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn should be that guy who's been in that locker room that hasn't quite gotten there and is ready to stop these young guys from coming up. I would say I don't think there's any reason to turn LA Knight, but I think LA Knight could have a similar chip on his shoulder where it's no longer about the CM Punks and Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. It's no longer about that top guy crew. It's about the people coming up now that are working on entering that top guy space that Sami Zayn or LA Knight or any of those people have not yet had the opportunity to kind of stay in. And I think that could be a long-term story of a Sami Zayn. That Sami Zayn is looking at Trick Williams, Mello, Oba, Braun Breaker, Logan Paul, Javon Evans, Dominic Mysterio, even guys like Jacob Fatu, who Jacob, even though he's put the time in, has been in WWE for 2 years, and we're all saying it's time for Jacob to be WWE champion. Meanwhile, Sami Zayn has been here since he's been here for 10 years and hasn't gotten that shot yet. Obafemi showed up at the end of last month. Sami hasn't gotten that shot yet. Trick Williams is way far on his way. And that's where you get Sami Zayn being a real villain. Because fans are cheering, whether he's a babyface or a heel, fans are cheering for Trick Williams. They're cheering for Javon. They're cheering for Obafemi. You know, they're cheering for Jacob Fatu. And if it weren't for Paul Heyman, they'd be cheering for Braun Breaker. How Logan Paul's so good, he's running a risk that people might start cheering for him at some point. And I think that when you're looking at the audience loving this idea of new people coming in and getting those top spots, that should piss off somebody like Sami Zayn. Because just when he's up to the second to last rung on the ladder, they're adding more rungs above him. And I think Sami Zayn should be that gatekeeper. And I think that is something that maybe the audience is telling us by booing the apology to Cody Rhodes. I think that in that moment it's a little bit about Cody Rhodes, but I think it's way more about Sami Zayn not standing up for himself, about Sami Zayn not owning himself. I think, yes, they were booing the fact that he was apologizing to the top guy on the roster. But it's not totally because it's the top guy on the roster. They're booing him because he's apologizing. Because that's not the Sami Zayn that we want to see anymore. that Sami Zayn doesn't work. And I love I love seeing this all kind of take place. But that's what I would want, right? Is long-term Sami Zayn acting as a gatekeeper and saying, you'll get yours, but not before I get mine. That, to me, is the Sami Zayn that I want to see. We got chamber qualifiers as well over the last week. Trick Williams and Javon Evans both qualified for the men's elimination chamber, joining Randy Orton, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes. Listen, this Trick Williams is unbelievable. I don't know if it was the last year of staying in NXT and getting that seasoning. You know what I mean? That last year of that run with the TNA championship and learning how to be a heel and you know, expanding upon the foundation he had already built that led him to the NXT championship. I don't know if that was what it was exactly, but whatever it was, it worked. Because Trick Williams is running on all cylinders. You know, I was watching, he did one of those morning news interviews, those local morning news spots on, like, I don't know, it was Louisville or something like that. I just saw it on YouTube. It was posted like 2 days ago. But this dude, Trick Williams, I mean, it's like old school meets new school. This dude walks in on the morning news and still looks like it's 9 o'clock at night on a Friday on SmackDown. He walks in with his all white pants on. He's got a big fur coat, no shirt. He shows up to the news, no shirt on, fur coat, lemon pepper steppers, sunglasses on, isn't breaking character at all. But he's not coming across cheesy. He's coming across cool. He's somehow showing up just as much in character as he is on SmackDown, but more charming than anybody else is on that station. He is unbelievable. I mean, it was incredible to see him pull that off because he just knows who he is now. He just completely owns who Trick Williams is. And that's the secret to having that cool factor, you know, completely owning who you are. And that's what Trick Williams has done. You know, on SmackDown, when he came out for that triple threat match, that qualifier, they went nuts for him. And I'm telling you right now, as much as they love Trick Williams on SmackDown, they are going to go crazy for him in Chicago. When he comes out for the Elimination Chamber, I think that they are going to go crazy for this guy. I don't know, like, what the plan is right now, but I don't think this Trick Williams thing, I think it's one of those things that it doesn't need to be a long play. I think you need to look at guys like Trick Williams and go, yeah, let's see how far we can push him right now before we hit a wall. I think sometimes you need to do that, right? It's good to always know, I got this one in the chamber, I got that one in the chamber. But it's also sometimes good to go, let's see how far we can push them right now to see how much they really resonate, right? Let's push until we hit a wall, and then we move it back a little bit. You know, I don't think we see enough of that in WWE right now. You know, let's keep pushing until we find resistance, and then we pull back, and then we're good. But I feel like if you just keep pushing Trick to the point that you get him closer and closer to that WWE championship, right? Let's start flirting with the idea of him going for the title. Do people respond to that? I'm not finding any resistance. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's even set up this idea of what if it was Trick Williams versus Drew McIntyre? Maybe we set up a little tension between the two of them backstage. Maybe they meet in the aisleway. Maybe they're involved in some kind of multi-person match or brawl, and there's a face-to-face interaction with the two of them. How do people respond when that happens? If we're still not getting pushback, maybe we go to a non-title match. No pushback, no pushback. Maybe we start building this as the main event of a PLE, and maybe we figure out what to do then. But I feel like when I watch Trick Williams now, it's like there's no sense of, oh, he's a new guy. Oh, we're figuring it out. I think everybody in the building sees it. I think everybody watching the show sees it. I think Trick is one of those guys where you'll forget that he's only been there for a month. You watch him now, and he feels like he belongs in the main event. And I don't necessarily think he's going to win the Elimination Chamber, but realistically, I don't think he's going to feel out of place. I don't think when Trick Williams is in there with LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton, I don't think he's going to feel out of place. And that's a scary thing, and scary in a good way. Like, I think maybe post-WrestleMania, you start immediately trying to map out a game plan for how Trick Williams is kind of, at the top of that show for in a short period of time. Like that he's one of your guys. I think that when you start looking at what the future can look like, Sami Zayn is a heel, Oba Femi, Braun Breaker, Trick Williams. Like Trick almost reminds me of an O2 Batista. Like when they had a group of guys come up in O2, and there was one guy that you were like, oh, we got to do this right now. They have a very different charisma. They have a very different style. They have a very different look. But I just mean in terms of like in O2, they brought up a group of guys. It was John Cena and it was Randy Orton and it was Batista and it was Brock. And like Brock was a totally different animal. Brock was almost like Oba Femi, where it's like, you could do whatever you want. You'd be blind not to see it. Like you knew going in, this is what we were going to do. You knew immediately. But the rest of them, it's almost like, let's see, like, is Randy ready now? Is he going to be ready later? Is John Cena ready now? Maybe John Cena's not the one. Batista, I actually think is ready now. Let's push him all the way. And if you go to that WrestleMania in 04, whatever it was, WrestleMania 21, or was that 03? Whatever it was. If you go to WrestleMania 21, yes, John Cena wins his first WWE championship, but it's Batista in the main event beating Triple H. And I think that that's what you got with Trick Williams. You got your guy who you can put in the main event right now. There are other people that you can kind of test the waters on. There are other people that you'll go, yeah, let's give him a lot, but not quite everything. I think Trick is in that Batista spot. And I think it's good. And I think you're going to see that in the Elimination Chamber, to the point where I think you're going to see Trick in the Elimination Chamber. And he's not only is he going to feel like he belongs, but there are going to be periods of time in that match where I believe he'll feel like the biggest star in that match. And you'll realize pretty quick that post-WrestleMania, he's one of your main event players. It's Cody, it's Drew, it's Trick Williams. This is what you're building into. And I think Trick's going to be a villain for a little bit, but he may be the guy. Like, if you can get that title on Sami Zayn at some point and Trick Williams beats Sami Zayn, that's going to be it's crazy to think that we're not terribly removed from that as a main event of a PLE. A good guy, Trick Williams, versus a bad guy, Sami Zayn, for the title. I think it could happen. Will it happen? We'll see. I think it could happen. We also got Kiana James qualifying over Charlotte and Nia Jax on SmackDown, which was definitely a shock. I think a lot of people thought that was Charlotte's match. Kiana going for like the backslide out of the figure eight. It was a creative finish for sure. There was one moment where people are trying to say that Kiana didn't get her shoulder up. I do think she got her shoulder up at like just the exact right time. I think it's a hair later, and it would have been like, you forgot to kick out. But I think she kicked out at like 2 and, 15/16ths, which is a fine. But Kiana James being in that match, I think it's big for Kiana James. Clearly, they see a lot in her because they also gave her a pretty significant spot in the Royal Rumble. I think that the Kiana James spot in the women's match is similar to the Javon Evans spot in the men's match. Not that Kiana James is bouncy and going to go all over the place, but I think that both of those matches are going to have that one unexpected new person. And it ain't Trick Williams in the men's. It's Javon Evans. Javon Evans winning that match with Dominic Mysterio and Gunther. Nobody saw that coming. Kiana, nobody saw that coming. And it's sort of like, okay, let's use the Elimination Chamber, not just to solidify what's going to happen at WrestleMania, and not just to solidify who the top guys are, but who the top people will be going forward. When I look at that women's Elimination Chamber match, right now, if I'm just being very logical and I'm being pragmatic, I think Tiffany Stratton wins the Elimination Chamber. But honestly, this occurred to me again on Friday watching SmackDown. Every single time I see Rhea Ripley, especially when she's coming out for a match, when that entrance hits and it's just her and she got the gear on and she's getting into a match, Rhea Ripley, to me, and maybe you disagree, you can email, you can leave comments if you disagree, but to me, when Rhea Ripley wrestles on television, it feels like a big deal, more so than just about anybody else. When Cody has a television match, that's a big deal. When CM Punk has a television match, that's a big deal. When Roman Reigns has a television match, it's a big deal. And I believe when Rhea Ripley has a television match, it's a big deal. Because I really think that's the level of star that Rhea Ripley not could be. That's the level of star that Rhea Ripley is. When you want to talk about could be, I firmly believe that Rhea Ripley could be the biggest star in the company, men or women. And she's not far from it right now. I think that she has a very, very rare star power to her that is very difficult to match. And you hear it when her music plays, and you hear it with the stomp, the way people respond, the aura that she has, her matches, everything about it. It just feels like there's the division and there's Rhea Ripley. And I get it. You're trying to spread the wealth. You're trying to build a division. Rhea Ripley is going to be Rhea Ripley no matter what. So in the meantime, let's put the title on somebody else. Let's build main event over here. We can use Rhea Ripley to elevate this person, elevate that person. We can use Rhea Ripley and Io Sky to elevate the tag division. I totally get it. But you look at Rhea Ripley, and I'm going, I feel like at this point, I would spend every possible minute I could with her as top of the division. Because you can't build stars like that. They just happen. And I think that that's who Rhea Ripley is. I think that if I were in one of those Unreal writers' rooms, I feel like I would push hard. I think there is a strong play to be made to have Rhea Ripley win the Elimination Chamber match. Who do I think is going to win? Probably Tiff. Who do I want to win? If it were up to me, who would I have win the Elimination Chamber match? 100% Rhea Ripley. And the match that it would lead to is Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill. Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill is a big match at WrestleMania. It's a big graphic. I think somebody like Rhea Ripley is going to bring out how big of a star Jade Cargill is just based on look alone. The Rhea Ripley entrance and the Jade Cargill entrance. The Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill stare down. This is what wrestling is all about. Pure and utter spectacle. It doesn't matter what they do in the ring. In fact, I almost want them to do less in the ring. Just allow the spectacle to be the spectacle. And seeing these two larger-than-life superheroes that look completely different, but both feel like they come from another planet because of the attention that they command. Fighting for the championship. That feels like and looks like a championship fight. And if Rhea Ripley were to win that match, you've now got somebody as big as Rhea Ripley on SmackDown. And you've got the WWE Women's Championship back on Rhea Ripley. It's been over a year since Rhea had a singles title. And that was the Women's World Championship. I don't know how long it's been since she was WWE Women's Champion. But I think Rhea Ripley is in a position where she could go on a generational run with the WWE Women's Championship. There's just nobody that touches her. And I think that that's something that you execute on. I mean, on the way there, I think you could even have Jade cost Rhea and Io the tag team championship on one of the shows. And that way you could free up the tag championship, maybe do the Bellas versus Charlotte and Alexa for the women's tag team championship. Hopefully that division has been elevated. The only drawback I see from this is that it leaves out Io Sky, which I hate the idea that it leaves out Io Sky, but I just look at Rhea Ripley, and I can't imagine why one would postpone making Rhea Ripley the centerpiece of the division. And there's a lot you could still do with Io Sky. Maybe Io coming off of WrestleMania goes after whoever wins the Women's World Championship. Maybe Io shows up on SmackDown, and if Rhea wins, now Io wants to get the title from Rhea. Io doesn't even have to turn heel. But if Rhea is the champion and her first challenger is the woman that she's never beaten, I think that that's a big deal too. Now, I think that when you look at possibilities, you go, okay, but what if Tiffany wins? That's your pitch for Rhea to win. And that is my pitch for Rhea Ripley to win. But what if Tiffany wins? Well, there's another way to go. If Tiffany were to win the chamber, I wouldn't be mad. I would totally get it. I think Tiffany Stratton is a star as well. I want to see Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill. That would be the match that I want to see. But Bianca put on her Instagram that she literally just had finger surgery. So I don't know what that entails. I'm not a doctor. But it doesn't feel like she's going to make it to WrestleMania, but who knows? But for now, I'm living in the reality that we're presented with. And that may be a dangerous thing, but that's the reality I'm living in. I think either way, if it's Rhea or Tiffany, I think Jade Cargill, I would have her lose the women's championship at WrestleMania. And for Tiffany Stratton, I feel like the biggest thing about it could be where it goes next. Because there was this other moment. SmackDown for me was all about moments. There was this moment on SmackDown. Tiffany Stratton fought Alba Fire. And boy, did Tiffany Stratton, put a whooping on Alba. Poor Alba Fire. But Tiffany Stratton beats Alba Fire. And when Tiffany Stratton beats Alba Fire, she has this look on her face as she's staring out down the aisle to Chelsea Green, who is stuck in that wheelchair. And I got to tell you, in that moment, it was like, yeah, this is it. This is your match. In that moment, I went back to the fan reaction. When Chelsea Green, when the fans thought that Chelsea Green was going to overcome Tiffany Stratton and qualify for the Elimination Chamber in that triple threat. She didn't end up doing it. But when it looked like it could happen, the response that it got. And I look at that and I go, yeah, that's your rivalry. Tiffany Stratton versus Chelsea Green is exactly where I would go with this. I mean, it's an oil and water rivalry. It could be the most entertaining rivalry. I mean, just in that moment, the way they were staring each other down was money. It was almost like throw everything out the window. That's the match that I want to see, and not on a low level, on a very, very high level. Chelsea Green is in a very, very unique position. Coming off of Unreal, the internet feels a type of way about her. Those quotes of Michael Hayes saying, Chelsea Green is kind of, she does a great job, but she can do more in 30 seconds than, or maybe Bruce, I don't know. The quotes coming out that Chelsea Green doesn't need all this TV time because she can do more in 30 seconds than most people could do in 5 minutes, which that's a compliment. Chelsea Green not being there to win the big match, but to be there to make other people look good on their way to winning the big match. Or Triple H being in the writer's room and saying, well, Chelsea Green can beat this one, but she can't beat that one. She can't beat that one. It's led to a groundswell of support for Chelsea and an awareness of what Chelsea's doing. Anybody that wasn't noticing how good Chelsea Green was before, they all see it very, very clearly now. And I think Chelsea Green versus Tiffany Stratton is the match that really reflects that. The thing about Unreal is that as much as, people can worry about it exposing the business, quote unquote, at the same time, it also adds to the narrative of what's going on. And you could say that that's because people are working the cameras or not, but everything becomes the work. When you expose the audience to a collective reality, whether it's true or not, that all becomes the work. So if your audience is watching Unreal and your audience is reacting to what's happening on Unreal, then that stuff all becomes part of the show because the ticket buying public is aware of all of it and reacting to it in real time. So you can't pretend it doesn't exist, and I don't think that is going to happen. I think that they look at that and go like, well, yeah, clearly that's a thing now. And the stuff that was said about Chelsea Green might have been true at the time it was said, but maybe it's not true anymore. And so I think that would be the upside for me. If Tiffany Stratton were to win the Elimination Chamber, then I think that having a Tiffany Stratton versus Chelsea Green program coming off of WrestleMania would be absolute money. Money, 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 like Mr. Krabs would say. While we're talking about the women's division, I'm sure you're noticing that as of the time of this recording, Liv Morgan hasn't actually officially declared who she's facing at WrestleMania. And I had come up with a bunch of different scenarios, but I've got to say, the reason that I've got whoever wins that Elimination Chamber facing Jade Cargill is because for the first time, I was completely sold on Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer on Monday Night Raw. That interview segment with Michael Cole, where Stephanie Vaquer came in and interrupted, and dirty Dominic Mysterio was there to translate. Liv Morgan getting emotional at the end of it. I think that's all good stuff. I think that is what led me into going, hey, this is now the match that I want to see. This is now the story that I want to see get played out. And for me, what's great about it is it's a story based on two stories. It's not necessarily about one person versus the other and this grudge being settled. It's not necessarily about, well, there's two people and they're really good and only one can be champion, so only one person is going to get that title. What it becomes about is two people's stories, and they collide with each other. Liv Morgan telling this story, because we've seen both struggles, but it's two different types of struggles. Liv Morgan is struggling within the WWE. There have been documentaries about this. Liv Morgan went through the whole WWE system, never earmarked to be the one, never earmarked to be, like we're going to put everything behind this woman. Yet she fought through everything, and somehow got through to the point where she's at the top of the division. But that struggle took years and years and years inside WWE. On the other end, you got Stephanie Vaquer, who has no sympathy for Liv Morgan's struggle, because Stephanie Vaquer's struggle was a just as long, if not longer, struggle, and hers was just to get into the WWE. So Stephanie Vaquer comes from this perspective of, I mean, if I did all this on my own, imagine what I would have been able to do with all the benefits that Liv Morgan had. Imagine what I would have been able to do with the Performance Center and the trainers and the television exposure and everything that Liv got, as opposed to having to work for years for WWE to even look at me. And from Liv's perspective, she's going, yeah, but everything I ever did was on television. Imagine if you were getting judged 3 months into your career. You have the benefit of getting to hone your craft and then being judged on who you are as a finished product, as opposed to everybody seeing you at your sort of, your first foray into what this is, her first time in a ring. It's WWE people seeing her. And it becomes very difficult to shake people's perception of who you are when they see you from the beginning. If you have ever had a job where you've worked in the same position for a very long time, a lot of times the longer you're there, the more difficult it is to get the promotion, because they hire from the outside because they don't see you as the person you are today. They see you as the person that they hired 5 years ago. And so it's two separate struggles. Both are legitimate. Both are relatable. Both have been poo-pooed by the other side in the past. And what you do is you get to WrestleMania, and now instead of telling this story of like, well, Stephanie Vaquer is the good guy and Liv Morgan is the bad guy, so Stephanie Vaquer is going to fight real hard and Liv Morgan might cheat and then might win, or Stephanie Vaquer will be able to overcome the cheating. Instead of that, you almost throw it all aside. And you have, oh my God, this person over here had to work all over the world to get enough attention to even be let in the door at WWE. But once she got into the door, she was so good that she's made it all the way to the Women's World Championship match at WrestleMania. And then in the other corner, you've got a person who came from zero experience whatsoever, who not only wasn't earmarked for success, but went through a long period of time where people just weren't sure about it and just didn't see it, and watched every single person on the roster get opportunities above her, until she finally had to become undeniable in order to get to the spot where, wow, look at where she is now. She's in the Women's World Championship match at WrestleMania. Those two stories colliding with each other, to me, is what I would love to see now. I mean, there are other things to see. If you end up going with somehow getting the title on Raquel and going with Raquel and Liv, or going with this one and going with that one, sure. But that story that I didn't really get until it was fully set up on Raw in that backstage interview segment. That's the story that I want to see. That's the story that I want to go away with. I feel like that's a WrestleMania story. And it's not even as clear cut as these stories usually are as to who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. You would think because maybe Stephanie Vaquer has a little more dirt under her metaphorical fingers that Stephanie Vaquer walks in as the babyface. And it's hard to imagine that she wouldn't walk in as the babyface. But again, going back to that Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn portrayal of the more realistic villain where they're really not a villain. I think that's who Liv Morgan is. I think, in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania, it becomes less about the sort of Judgment Day, Dominic Mysterio of it all, and more about Liv going, wait. With all this other stuff that's been going on, have you guys forgotten who I am? Have you guys forgotten about what I did? Have you guys forgotten about the road that I've been on? And that becomes her story. And I just think it becomes epic, to use an overly used word. I think it becomes a massive, massive way of talking and building towards this match between these two women. Before we get to WrestleMania, there's a big crate. It showed up on Raw, but it got a lot of love on SmackDown. A lot of attention on SmackDown went to this crate. It was there the whole time, and then Nick Aldis ended up sending it back to Adam Pearce. So I'm sure we're going to get it on Raw again. Then I'm sure we're going to get it on SmackDown. And then the reveal comes at the Elimination Chamber. And look, I've said, I think it's Jericho. Jericho is my pick for what's in the crate. It's a little bit of an obvious one. It's a little on the nose, I think. But it just makes all the sense in the world, and it would get the reaction. But, it's got to be something, right? It's got to be a big deal. It was on SmackDown enough that even depressed Johnny Gargano was planking on top of the crate. There was a lot of crate stuff going on. So it's got to be something, right? It's not just a throwaway thing. I don't think it's the gobbledygooker. It could be. I hope not. But there are a lot of things that it could be. A lot of, other than Jericho. People have been suggesting it. Some people, there's a big contingent of people that think that it's an additional chamber. That it is an additional chamber for the Elimination Chamber. And at first, I was like, I don't understand. Would it come with installation instructions? Do you put it inside the cage? But there is something kind of fun. Not that I think that this is what it is. But there is something kind of fun about the idea that this crate opens up in the middle of the aisleway. And there's a chamber inside with a wrestler in it. And that chamber opens independently. It's possible. Now, I don't know who would be in that chamber. It's difficult for me to believe that like Brock Lesnar has been in the crate, in the chamber this whole time. I don't know if the crate opens and it's just a chamber and then somebody from backstage comes up and enters the chamber. I think that that's a stretch. But I can't get the thought out of my head of the crate opening in the middle of the aisle and there being just a chamber sitting by itself. I think that that's fun. People have brought up, it could be the demon, and it could be the demon, but, the demon is not supposed to be a separate entity from Finn Balor. So I don't see how, unless it's Demonito, unless the crate opens and it's the demon puppet from AAA, and then the demon comes out to get his puppet. I guess that's possible. Doesn't feel very demon-like if the demon's going to return. It doesn't feel, but it's possible. It could be an inanimate object signaling the return of somebody. Somebody called into my radio show, said it was Randy Orton. That makes no sense whatsoever. He's literally booked in the match. I don't know why it would have to come out of a crate. There's one name being thrown around that is probably the only human that could convince me that he has been in the crate as long as 2 weeks. Danhausen's name has come up. And, I do have to say, I do love that Danhausen. And that name has come up, and if it were, I don't know what he would do. I don't know what that would look like in WWE, but I'd be very, very excited about it. I think that there'd be a lot of monies to be made if it was Danhausen. I hope he would come with his jar of teeth. That feels like one of those characters that you just go all the way with. And I think that we have not yet seen a major promotion take full advantage of the merchandising power and character-driven power that Danhausen has. So I think it would be interesting But I don't know. I mean, it'd be a good place to make monies. That's for sure. That's for sure. We'll see. We'll see at Elimination Chamber. If you want to email us, it's notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Let's go to a few emails. Our email address is notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Let's go to, who is this? Lewis, who writes in, greetings from South Wales. With the women's tag division getting so much attention currently, do you see it as a good chance of making history and having the first ever women's ladder match at WrestleMania? You've got Rhea and Io, Charlotte and Alexa, Lash and Nia, Bayley and Lyra, Kiana and Julia, the Kabuki Warriors. I think a six-pack ladder match has unbelievable potential. I think that would be really good. You know, I think there are a couple ways to do it. You could do a six-pack challenge. You could do a fatal four-way. You could do that ladder match, which might be the best alternative that I've heard. I'd love a women's ladder match. I think that'd be really, really good. Or you could do, like, either on SmackDown or on night one, a multi-tag number one contenders match, and then just a straight 2-on-2 match at WrestleMania on night one or night two. But that ladder match might do it for me. I do like the idea of a fatal four-way or a six-pack tag ladder match. That'd be really fun. Luke writes in, I acknowledge you, my OPTC1. I'm flying from Perth. By the way, how about that? Wales and Perth are the first two emails today. For Mania 42, I would like to know if you'll do a live Not Saying podcast or a show at WWE World during Mania week. Looking to plan ahead and see some podcast greatness. Hopefully you'll do one or both. Thanks. Luke, we're going long game, Sam. And I see you on your podcast. Oh, you must be referring to this.
We're long gaming, Sam. And by the way, I hear you on your podcast. You said a lot of things.
That's the final boss right there. Luke, I do not have anything planned for doing a live show, like a live podcast like I've done before, like I did last year at the Comedy Cellar in Vegas. But I am hoping to get a lot done at WWE World. That's kind of why I haven't booked any outside venues, because ideally I'd like to do a lot at WWE World. So hopefully that's where I'll be, and I'll be able to tell you guys a little bit more about it in the coming weeks. Let's go to Andy, QB1 of podcast, radio, YouTube, WWE, and the world. Who have been your favorite guests to interact with? Do you prefer in character or out of character? Who is the top of the list of wrestlers you've yet to interview? I don't know who's top of the list that I haven't interviewed. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people. I mean, it now more becomes who would I like to sit down in the basement? You know what I mean? And have a real, sort of these basement conversations where it's like, just come over, sit down. We haven't really talked about how long you're going to be here. We haven't really talked about what we're promoting. It's just, a straight up interview. Almost like, I did one with MJF. I did one with Edge. I did one with Mark Henry, Kurt Angle. Those I really love. So that's kind of how I quantify it now. And having John Cena and The Rock in the basement are sort of the long-term pinch me goals that I have left. Who have been my favorite guests to interact with? Definitely John Cena and The Rock are both on that list. Those are two amazing, amazing human beings. I really love interacting with Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre. There's a lot of people. Finn Balor, a lot of great human beings. And do you prefer in character or out of character? I prefer people who can blur the line. Like, I don't love it when the whole kind of curtain gets pulled back, even in my interviews, unless it's from like a long time ago, then I'm okay with it. But I like it when people are able to kind of walk that line where it starts to, like the interview feels real enough that it makes the character feel more real, if that makes sense. I don't like fully in character interviews. I think that they're ridiculous. They're pointless. But I think when you can walk that line, I think it's really, really good. Or if you could do like Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania last year, where he never really broke character, but he was also being a real person and told us real stories. I think that's the money. Ash writes in, the women's tag division is hot right now. So many good teams in storyline wrestling. The men's tag division on both sides conversely feel flat. Giving the Usos the belts is a good step, but how would you put life back into the division and build meaningful storytelling? Well, I think, the women's division, there was a specific, it felt like there was a motivation to do it. You took a lot of high-profile women, put them in tag teams and made that their focus. I think if you went around and made, Bronson Reed and Logan Paul only do tag team stuff, and you made, whoever else you want to put it. If you go to the main event scene, if you made Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor a tag team, you know what I mean? If you went to the main event scene and just go right under tippity top and made tag teams out of all of them, I think you'd have a crazy men's division at that point. But then, you're trading off with the singles division a little bit. Same way, honestly. Jess writes in, other than Stephanie McMahon, who would you be putting into the Hall of Fame this year? This year? I'd love to put AJ Styles in this year. I think John Cena can definitely wait, but I'd love to put AJ Styles in this year. I think the Insane Clown Posse should be in the Hall of Fame. I would definitely put the Insane Clown Posse in. And then, let's see, in Vegas, have they put Rob Van Dam in the Hall? Maybe they have put Rob. Maybe I think Rob Van Dam's in the Hall of Fame. Maybe Sandman. I think it'd be cool to put the Sandman in the Hall of Fame. Let's see. Sam writes in, should the likes of Sammy, LA Knight, Damian be concerned at getting into the title picture when you have so much talent coming up? We're telling the same story. Bronze, Jacob, MFTs, Carmelo, Ilya, who've been around for a little while. Now the likes of Trick, Oba coming in hot. It must be getting harder than ever to play the long game in getting into top spots because there's a massive amount of talent coming in. Yes, 1,000%. I wouldn't even mind, and it feels a little bit like Millionaires Club versus New Blood, but it's not the top talent guys that are trying to stop the new guys. It's the guys that haven't gotten their spot yet trying to stop the new guys coming in. I think that should be a story. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Sam Fatu. Fatu! Not Sam Fatu. By the way, Sam Fatu is the name of the Tonga kid, the father of Jacob, who starred in the film Body Slam, which now I'm kicking myself because we interviewed Jacob and I didn't ask him about his dad in the movie Body Slam. I noticed a detail last Friday during Sammy's triple threat with Cody and Jacob. When Sammy is in the corner after his entrance, Jacob's music plays and Sammy winces, closes his eye. An old school I'm in trouble reaction. I'm convinced Sammy is Jacob's attacker. Ooh! And this is another clue. My first clue being the night that Jacob was injured, Sammy also lost his U.S. title. Sammy's a great pick for that, dude. I'm sorry, Natalie, lady. Sammy is a great pick for that. Yes. Sammy is an incredible pick for that. Jacob versus Sammy, yes. And how would he have not? Well, he wouldn't have done a haluva click. I'm curious if they're going to explain how Jacob got his teeth knocked out without seeing who knocked out his teeth. But maybe they wore a mask. But yeah, I think Sammy's a great pick for that, to tell you the truth. I think a really good pick. Let's see. Let's go to Mike. Hello to the last professional broadcaster on my original podcast, Tribal Chief. The OPTC is what they call me. What's in the box? I don't think it's Jericho himself or any individual wrestler, but I expect that it could be a prop to tease or even straight up reveal the debut or return of a superstar. Maybe a Y2J countdown clock is in the crate. Maybe it's Seth Rollins' crutches. I don't know, but man, WWE is creating high expectations, and I hope they can deliver something fun and exciting. I do too. And if it is, and I agree with you, I think there's a good chance that it could be an inanimate object, and that's how they explain how somebody was able to just be in the crate for 2 weeks. Nobody could do that unless it's Danhausen. But I think if it is an inanimate object, I think if it's a countdown clock, it's got to be a 10-second countdown clock. Like, you can't open the crate and then go, it's another tease. The crate is the tease. You can't open the crate to get a tease. If it is an inanimate object that is signaling that somebody is returning or debuting, then they have to return or debut right after you see it. They can't go like, oh, stay tuned. Maybe at WrestleMania, maybe on Raw. Like, it has to be that day. All right. Last email. This is a long one. I think I'm going to... Okay, another box theory from Tommy. Okay, this will be the last email. Hope all is well. I'm writing with a twist. And I haven't heard yet, but I could see it coming. The box contains one giant boulder. And when it's revealed in the middle of the ring, everyone is confused and still reeling from the biggest shock of the night, Cody losing the Elimination Chamber. We're left staring at this rock, and the final boss music hits, and the rock comes out. He calls Cody back to the ring and asks him if he's decided to give him his soul, straight ignoring that a whole year has gone by. This twist has the potential to conclude a few loose ends. It leads to Cody versus Rock match. It may allow us to find out Drew's favor. And it may be the only way that we accept Cody not being the WWE in the WWE Championship match. It's for my first time emailing you, and I'm a big fan of all your media. I'm curious your thoughts of this. Well, Tommy, I appreciate the email. I wouldn't go with a boulder. I think maybe you can put the People's Championship belt in the box. You could put $500 shirt in the box. You could put a replica of the Brahma Bull in the box. I wouldn't do a boulder. That's a little on the nose. Listen, if you could get The Rock to do it, I think it would be amazing. You could also, if you don't have The Rock wrestling at WrestleMania, you could have The Rock come back a year later and Cody say, yes, I have decided to sell my soul. Yes, I have. That would be amazing too. I don't know. Let's talk about it. Maybe the next time we talk, we'll know. Who knows? I mean, we'll talk before then, but Elimination Chamber's on Saturday. It's going to be very, very exciting. We'll find out. We'll find out all of it. Subscribe to the channel so you get not only the content that we do in addition to this podcast all week long, but the stuff that we did at WWE HQ, the interviews and whatnot, they'll be going up here on the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel and the Notsam Wrestling podcast. So subscribe across all audio platforms as well as the YouTube channel. And we'll see you right here next week.